on credit cards or basically building credit. And for today, we're going to be talking about 5 different myths about credit cards, 5 different lies that people often hear about credit cards. And they're essential to talking about because a lot of people believe these myths and these lies. They end up either sabotaging their own credit, or they end up not applying for credit, or they don't know how to get credit or how to attain credit because of the myths that they've been taught. So basically, I'm here to, debunk the myths of credit. All right, so let's get into it. Hi, Bander. Thank you for joining me. Hi, how are you? Thank you. Welcome. This is I think this is our fourth episode of this series that we're talking about. So I'm just gonna, wait at least another minute to see if anybody else will join me. But let's talk about the 5 myths of credit. All right. So before I start talking about the myths, I just yes, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate your support. Before getting into it, as I said before, I said yesterday's live. I think I'm doing a live every single day. I'm gonna try to do a series that maybe like a good 10 lives to talk about credit, because I find that a lot of people are interested in this topic and how credit really works. So I have a total of 5 myths that I want to discuss when it comes to credit. All right. So the first one that I want to talk about is, there's a myth, or there is something, or people that say that it's basically good to carry a balance on your credit cards. That is not true. That is a myth. You can carry a balance on your credit card if you can't afford to pay all that you've spent. This is why the credit companies give you a payment each month. So I always use the example where if you have $1,000 credit card balance or $1,000 credit limit, and maybe you use, I don't know, maybe $300 of that, and when the bill comes, right, which is a 30% utilization, when the bill comes, then you're encouraged to pay it off, but maybe you don't have the money to pay it off, right? So a lot of people tend to carry balances, and there's a rumor that if you carry a balance, that it helps your score. It really doesn't help your score to carry a balance. It really doesn't, because the only thing that it's doing when you're carrying a balance is that it's basically putting more interest on your balance. In other words, the credit card company is making more money, and it's costing you in the long run. So, hi, and Ed Leo. Thank you for joining. Welcome to our credit series. This is our lives. I have a live almost every evening, and I talk about building and getting credit. And if you're just joining me, for the people that are on the live, we're talking about myths. 5 lies basically about credit cards that people tend to believe, but they're not true. So the first one that I talked about, that it's good or it's wise to carry a balance. No, it's not good to have a balance on your credit card. If you can pay what you use, when the statement comes due, that's fine. But if you can't pay what is due, the credit card company will still allow you to pay the minimum. So when you get your statement, it's going to say minimum payment due. Now, you can always pay more than the minimum, or you can pay the minimum or more earlier than it's due. All right. So, saying that carrying a balance is going to help you, have better credit, it's not true. Now, there is one caveat to that. If you have a balance on your credit card and you're paying more than the minimum, it's perfectly fine. You're basically showing the bank that you know how to revolve, you know how to manage your money, right? But carrying a balance that, is not benefiting you, it doesn't really help you in the long run. You understand what I'm saying? So it doesn't really benefit you to carry a balance on your credit card. All right. Now, the second one that I'm going to touch on here is when people say, listen, you know, that you should close a credit card once you finish paying it off. Wrong. Don't close it. I talked about this yesterday during our series, during our show. And hi, Bolu. Thank you so much for joining. It's good to see you, friend. Yes, I'm having a series of lives and we're talking about building good credit. Wonderful. Welcome, welcome. I hope you could stay the whole time. Just trying to get these hours up, right? So the second one is that, it says that when you close a credit card, it helps you to, grow your score. It doesn't. If you pay off a credit card, let's say you pay off a credit card, right? And when you pay off a credit card, you have it there. I know sometimes you might be tempted to want to use the credit card, but here is the thing about it. If you want to use that credit card, I tell people, I say, just put the card away. Okay? Thank you so much, Bolo. Thank you for your support. I'm supporting you too, and we really got to connect, and we got to do a live together one of these days. We really got to do something, right? Hi, Alice. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're talking about the beauty of credit, and we're talking about the myths and the lies that we learn about credit cards. But I'm here to tell you that we're talking about five of them. We're gonna like break them down. So if you pay off a credit card, right? When you pay off a credit card, it doesn't benefit you to close the card or to even get rid of the card. You want to keep that card. So if you keep the card, what you're going to do is maybe, let's say you paid off the credit card now in the month of September, as we're speaking. Maybe next month or in November, you might use the credit card again and make one purchase. Okay? Because remember, you're trying to build a credit history, right? So even though you paid it off, the lender is still watching to see how you work with that credit card. Now, here is the trick. Some people might say yes, some might say no. Maybe you want to get a little bit more credit. You want to, get more credit so you could spend more. Right. So if you're able to pay that credit card off and the lender sees that you haven't, you never went over the limit, you didn't have any late charges, etc., they might just increase your limit. So there, right. So there, hold on a second. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me get this person off my live. Anybody that comes on the live and they're disrespectful or rude, I get them off. Right. We have a community setting. This is a live to educate people. Okay? And if you're going to be rude, you have to get off my live because I will block you off my live. I'm not here for you to insult me. If you don't like what I'm saying or you're not interested, you disconnect. You're free to leave. But if you're just joking and you're sincerely apologizing, that's fine. But please don't interrupt me with rude or obscene comments. Right. You do it again, you're getting blocked. Please get off my live if you're going to be rude. This is for people that really want to learn. Right. Thank you, Bolo. I don't like when people disrespect me like that. This is for people that really want to learn about credit. People that want to learn how to level up their money. Right. People that want to learn how to, make their money work for them. Because in this lifetime, the problem is a lot of people are basically, what's the word? They let money control them. My channel is about you learning how to control money. You get what I'm saying? Anyway, so as I said, once you pay off a card, please don't close it. Leave it there. And once you leave it there, you're able to get better, you'll be able to get better rates. You'll be able to get a higher credit balance. Okay? That's exactly what that's about. So that's a plus if you can pay off a card, because you have people that will have credit cards and they'll have them lingering on for years. As I said yesterday during the series, you can have $1,000 credit card. And if you take let's say 3 to 5 years to pay that card off, you can end up with like a 5,000 to 7,000 balance that, the bank, or you end up paying an interest. So it's kind of wise for you to, pay it off. Okay. Bolu says if credit works in Nigeria. So Bolu, I'm in the US, right? I'm in the US. I'm sure every country has credit. Exactly how credit works in Nigeria, I really don't know, but right. Exactly how it works in Nigeria, I'm not really sure. But I mean, I could always guess that there is credit in every country. You understand what I'm saying? There is credit in every country. So if you were to get a credit card, I'm sure the same rules would apply, because business is business, right? Everybody, all the banks want to make their money. Right. Okay. So they have something there called credits system. Yeah, right, right, right. So almost, all, foreign countries, they have their own they have their own system. So as I said, I'm in the US. I'm sure if there's somebody even on this live that's from the UK, um, you know, one second. Hold on. Okay. Right. I'm sure that wherever you are, you will be able to hold on a second. Let me learn how to do it because I'm new with this live thing. Thank you, Bolo. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do it. I just hid his comments. I gave it a timeout. Right. Yes. Yep. I think I just did that. Sorry about that, guys. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm learning. Like with Bolo, when I watch your lives and I watch your videos, I always see you, so energetic and so forth. So right, right. I'm new to this thing. But anyway, what was I saying? I'm not sure how it works in Nigeria, but I'm sure every country has their own form of credit, their own system. So I mean, maybe you could research. I always tell people to do the good old fashioned, you know, Google. Google tells us everything, or get professional financial advice. But I was talking mainly like focused around here. All right, so that's the second myth that we want to debunk. That paying off a card, that you should basically close the card. Never close your credit cards. Never. Just leave them there. If you don't want to use them or you're tempted to use them, I don't know, I tell people like, hide them under a mattress or something, or, put them in a closet. But just use them every once in a while to keep the line open. You don't want it to go dormant, okay? All right. The third myth that we're going to talk about, that a lot of people say that when you apply for credit, that it ruins your credit profile. All right. Right. Okay. So Bolu said that credit works in the USA, UK, Germany, and Canada. Right. Right. So, okay. I know for countries like the US, I know for the UK, I don't know about Germany, and I know about Canada. Yes, the credit system is basically the same. But how the credit is in Nigeria or any other foreign country, like, I have no idea. But yes, credit is the same in the UK, basically the foreign countries. Right, right. That's exactly right. And funny you said that, because this is a credit run society. It's like when I go in a store, when I go to buy anything, right? Whether I'm trying to purchase a car, at the time, if I'm trying to purchase a home, everything goes off of your credit score. It's like, I know most countries or most places, it's cash society, but here in America, everything is based on credit. It even looks odd. Like, let's say you go into a place like a dealership to buy a car, and you want to buy a $30,000 car, and you go in there and you say to the dealership, you say, listen, I have $30,000. They're not going to like want to do a deal with you, because they're going to look at you like, how did you get that money? They want to go through everything. They want to run your social security number, because they're not expecting for you to pay for it in cash. Right. Yes. Right. So Bander says that you have to use your credit, good and bad and so forth. Okay, exactly. This whole live centers on having good credit. And what is a good credit score that we have? We're looking from anything from like 600s and up. So if you're at like 620, 650 and so forth. Right. Oh, yeah, right. The money. They said they would wonder. Of course, if you walked in a bank, and if you walked in a car dealership here, let's say you're gonna go buy like I don't know, I'm throwing it out like a Chevy there, and you walk in there and there's a $30,000 car, and you walk in there with $30,000 cash. They're not even gonna want that. They're gonna tell you that you need to bring your deposit, or if you're paying for it, in a certified bank check, because again, they don't want to be involved in anything that's God forbid, fraudulent. Right. Yeah, they want you to basically, show proof, show credit. Another thing that I want to touch on, speaking of buying cars, and Bolo, this is especially for you. If you go to get your car and so forth, and I mentioned this before, on your credit profile, they're going to use your social security number, right? And they're going to run your social security number through the credit bureaus. And when they run your social security number through the credit bureaus, they're going to basically see that, what, hey, listen, this person has this amount of money, this is their spending power. But when they run it, you get a lot of inquiries, because if you go to buy a car, they're not just going to run your credit profile through one dealership. I'm sorry, through one bank. They're going to run your credit profile through a lot of different places. Okay, a lot of different banks to see who's going to pick you up to help you finance or get that loan. So, and again, I think personally, with the game of credit, it's a great way to keep companies and to keep banks and credit card places in business. And for the person that doesn't have, it's called BVN in Nigeria. Okay, so right, like I said, I'm sure every country has their own system. For the person that doesn't have the $30,000 cash or doesn't have, a lot of money, and because they have good credit, which is what this live is, really about, talking about having good credit. Because they have good credit, having good credit is like a reward. Okay, the bank verification number, right? We have our social security number. I know in other countries, like I know in the Caribbean, they have something called a TRN number, and people use that number to apply for things or to do certain type of businesses. But here in the U.S., and I would imagine, I don't know if it's in UK or Canada, because I've never lived there. I don't know what their system is. They also have a number that they verify and see who you are, so that you could qualify for things. And it's good, because it's like, what I'm saying is, if you don't have a lot of like a lot of cash or a lot of money, and because you're good with paying your bills, you're good with your finances, right? You can definitely get credit, quote unquote. You get somebody to finance you. That's what having credit does, being able somebody to finance you. So I said yesterday on my live, I said, when you have good credit, it doesn't even matter what your salary is. Sometimes you can basically buy anything. It's not like when you're in certain places, and if you're not rich or your family's not rich, you can't afford certain things. No, when you have good credit, especially you're here in the US, or I guess other countries, you can afford to buy anything that you want to buy, because your credit is basically a reward, right? It's like a reward for you managing your money well. So it's like what the bank is basically, saying is like, okay, you've been paying your bills, you've been doing well. We're gonna keep you, okay? We're gonna reward you by financing what you want to buy. And a lot of people that you see, well, I don't know, perhaps maybe if they lived in other places, it wouldn't have been that easy for them to buy certain things because they're not able to get financing. But again, credit allows you to get financing and buy the things that you were never able to buy because you have good credit. So it's a plus. It's really, really a plus. All right, the next myth that I want to talk about, when they say, that when you apply for credit, it ruins it. Right. 1 second, Bola, I'll address your question. Let me just jump on the point. The third one, they say that when you apply for a credit card, it ruins your, what do you call it? It ruins your credit. Of course, whenever somebody runs your credit, your score is gonna go down a little bit. You're gonna get a little ding. But if they don't run your credit and they don't have criteria, how are they gonna know what you qualify for? No, you're good, Bola. Thank you. You're good. How are they gonna know what you qualify for? So that's just their requirement and their rule. They say if they run your credit, that your score is gonna go down a little bit. So that's a good point that was also brought up on yesterday's live. We talked about two things. We talked about something called a soft pull and a hard pull. Right. Most times when you apply for stuff, especially a credit card, they do a soft pull, or they say, when you're pre-qualified. When they do a soft pull, it doesn't affect your credit score. It doesn't affect your profile. Now, if that lender decides that they're going to grant you credit, okay, if they're going to grant you credit, some of them, depending what you're buying, they might do something else called a hard pull. And that's the one that that's the one basically that's going to allow you to qualify. But again, if you get a hard pull on the credit, it's going to make your score go down a little bit. But for me personally, and if I'm applying for something and, once they do a soft pull and they say, okay, hey, Mel, listen, you can qualify. I don't care if the lender does a hard pull after, because basically by them pre-qualifying me before the soft pull, I know that for sure that I'm going to get the product. So it's like in life, you got to give to receive. You get what I'm saying? You got to give to receive. So what they're asking you to give is this. They're saying, okay, let us pull your credit or let us pull whatever. But once we do it, this is what you're going to end up with. You're going to get the product. So to me, it's worth it. Right. Okay. So Bolu just made up a point. He said that, when you apply for credit, They check how much comes in versus how much you spend. So that is, again, I think you're referring to what we call our debt to income ratio. Of course, what you're making versus what you're spending is two different things. Okay, here again, like let's say you're, here in the US, if you're making $30,000 a year, you should not be spending 50,000. I know it sounds a little bit ridiculous to say you're making 30 but spending 50. What that simply means is that you're buying, or you're putting your expenditures where you can't afford it. You're paying for things that you're buying things that you can't afford. And so this is where people run into the negative, especially with their credit. So let's say, for example, you go out, you're making $30,000 a year US, right? And you go buy a car. You literally buy a car that's like the same price, if you can qualify, because I don't think they're really going to let you qualify, but I'm just throwing numbers out. If it's not a car, it could be whatever you buy, clothes, I don't know, furniture, whatever it is you buy. But if you're spending more than you're making, you're going to be in the negative. Think about it. Right. How can you, if you have $30,000, how can you buy something that's 50,000? You're going to be negative 20,000, right? If you do the math. Right. You ask about backup business. So that's also another good point. As long as the business is making money, right? I had a gentleman on the live yesterday, and the gentleman was saying that if you're to have credit, he said, thank you, Bander, I appreciate your support. The gentleman said, what if I have something called business credit? Like you said, Bolo, that's backed up by my business. That's a whole different line, because business credit, or anything that's backed by your business, goes by, your business being registered. It goes by your business having an LLC. What I'm really referring to here is personal credit. I'm really referring to like personal credit, like what you do with your social security number. And I made a point yesterday in saying to the gentleman that, listen, if you have personal credit, you still have to keep your personal credit good, because many times when you apply for business credit, they do something called PG, or personal guarantee. So although they say, hey, it's business credit, we're not going to qualify you based off of your personal credit. Listen, they look at your personal credit and they see again how you manage money. Remember, business credit is big. If you get a regular personal credit card, the average person, maybe on it they give you like $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, even something as small, $500, like 500 USD, right? I'll answer your question once again. Is personal credit different from business credit? Yes, I'll answer you in a second. If your personal credit isn't good, where you're not managing, you're not revolving your trade lines, you're not paying your bills on time, business credit, people that do business credit, they're not going to qualify you for business credit. The only difference with personal credit and business credit is that business credit is separated by the way it's reported. So here, personal credit is reported to three major credit bureaus. We have the TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. That's where your personal credit is reported to each month. Hence, you get the credit score, right? But business credit is reported to a different place. I forgot the exact name of where they report your business credit, but you get a totally different score. So, for example, Bolu asked a question. He said, is personal credit different from business credit? Yes, it is. Business credit, you tend to get more, and it's reported to a different place. Right. And business credit is based on your business. So in other words, like let's say, okay, there's a company called American Express, Amex, right? That's a company that gives a lot of business credit. In order for you to qualify to get any type of credit through those people, and there's other companies, but I'm just using Amex as an example. They're going to look at your business bank account. Business credit is mostly based off your business bank account. In other words, can you show the bank, that the place that you're applying for business credit, that you literally have a business and it's generating income and it makes sense for them to give you their money? Right. So if you want to do, okay, Bander's right. American Express, yes, they have business credit, but it's really hard. Right. Another place that offers like business line of credits, like you have PayPal that does business line of credits. And like, let's say, for example, like you have like a little small side business. I don't care what you do. Like, let's say you're a barber, and I'm just throwing something out there. And if you set it up where you have a PayPal account, when people pay you, you can have people just PayPal you. PayPal looks at the amount of transactions that you're doing. And when they see, like, because everybody likes, let me tell you about banks. Banks like when money come in. Banks like when money come in. That's it. They just want money to come in. They don't care. They're not big on money going out. They just want the money to come in. So what I was saying is when you apply for business credit and you have the business bank statements, not your personal statement, your business bank statements, you have the business records, they look at how, right, they exactly, they look at exactly how much is coming into your bank account, into your business bank account, and that's how you get business credit. And of course, to get business credit, you have to have your business for a while. It has to be seasoned. Again, I can't give you an exact number of how long you have to get it, because every bank, is different with business credit. They all have different requirements. I did I did a video. I don't know. Yeah, I think I did a long form video, and I talked about banks that were giving money away. And to be quite honest, I looked at it. I don't know if the video wasn't pushed through enough through the algorithm. I don't know if people weren't interested. But to me, I thought it was such a good video, because if you're there and you're strapped for cash and so forth, all you had to do is just literally go to a bank and open some personal checking accounts. All you had to do is open a personal checking account, make a few deposit if you want to revolve them. See, you got to be wise how you spend the money. What people don't understand is that you got to move your money in different places. Also on my channel, I also did a video, and I mean, it's the live, so I can't really link a video now, but I think when I go back and I look at this video, I'm gonna like link this exactly in this live. You have to have multiple and different bank accounts. I don't understand people that just have one bank account. So you mean to tell me that what if the one bank goes down, or the one bank they're having electronic problems or whatever? That means you can't get your money, right? Right. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, you got to invest in different places. You got to move your money around. And those are the things that I talk about, especially with the game of credit. Banks like to see that you revolve, like you move credit around, you move your money around. I give an example that if you have a credit card, whether it's a business credit card or you have a personal credit card, if you have a card, let's say, okay, since we're on the topic of business credit cards, if you have a business credit card and you use that business credit card to maybe buy supplies for the company, they want you to spend the money. They want for you to spend the money. But here's the thing, like I said, whether business or personal credit, you gotta pay the money back. You have to pay the money back. Once you pay the money back and so forth, they know that they could trust you, and that's how you open it up. Bolo, I also want to tell you too, being that you touched on business credit, the amounts that you get for business credit are far bigger than what you get for personal credit. So if let's say, for example, like you was able to get a business credit card for your business, whatever it is. On a business credit card, maybe you get a $10,000 limit, right? Versus when you open a personal credit card, you only get like $1,000 or $2,000 limit. Because remember, businesses have expenses, right? They have a lot of expenditures. They have a lot of things that they have to pay for. So the limits that you get on business credit cards are different and better, right? Exactly. Businesses have more profit and they have bigger expenses. A person with their personal credit, taking their credit card because you want to buy clothes. I'm just throwing something out there. You want to travel. You don't even need those things. But we're human beings and we do those things. But when you have a business, you have costs, you have people to pay, you have supplies to buy. The credit limit is going to be bigger. And you have people that open businesses and just, get business credit cards because they find that it's better to revolve and they build it up better. Now, here's the thing with business credit cards. When you have business credit cards, you still got to pay your bills back. Business or personal, you still got to pay your bills back. But again, you get better and higher limits with business credit cards. And of course, when you're running a business, you got to keep it professional. You got to do your taxes. You got to file. You got to show where you're spending your money and exactly how you're using it. Because again, there's a famous saying that documentation beats communication. Okay? You can't go in there and verbally tell the bank, oh, listen, I bought this and I bought that. They're going to be like, okay, great. Show us on your accounting. Show us your sheet. Right. Show us exactly what you did. Okay? So I think we're up to number 3 when we talked about, applying for a credit card ruins your credit. No, it doesn't. Yes, you get a few dings on your score. Whatever. Your score might go down a little bit, whether personal or business, but who cares? If you can apply and you're going to get those rates, it's a wonderful tool. Right. Yes. Oh yeah, you got to keep records of business. Listen, I don't go anywhere, and if I go somewhere to buy, I always take my receipt. Like even like here in the US, when I go to pay for stuff, and a lot of people are doing things digital, they're like tapping their phones to pay, and everything is virtual. But I'm old fashioned. I'm a woman in my 40s. I'm an adult. And the good old fashioned ways worked for years. I don't see what the difference is. I know that it's a technological age that we live in, and a lot of people are doing everything virtual or digital, but I'm sorry, I still need a receipt. You know why I like a receipt? Because it shows track, it shows record. A lot of times when I get my receipts, Mander says, hi, the levels of credits banks, right? Yeah, everything is technological. When I get my receipts, yes, I get a paper receipt, but I also have them text. I have my receipts text or emailed to me that I always have a copy, because the funny thing is those paper receipts, they fade out after a while. They get crumpled in your pocket. You wash them with your clothes. You throw them out. So you end up with like nothing on the receipts. You get what I'm saying? You end up with nothing on it. So yes, I think this is when I think it's good to text, and I think it's good to what do you call it? Send it virtually. Yes, it definitely works. All right. Yes, yes. I like to have records of everything for sure. Bolo said that it's good to have a record of your product. Of course. I mean, what if you bought the product and the product is defective and you have to return the product? Right, right. What if you have to return the product? Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, anywhere, any store, Walmart. What do we have here? Walmart, Target, all of them. Just it doesn't matter where you shop. Just get your receipts. Right. All right. So we hit three. You're asking about well, you're asking about like when you do returns. When you do returns, like I return stuff all the time. Sometimes I return like the God forbid it's broken. Sometimes the product doesn't fit, or the it doesn't work, depending what it is that I buy. I just bring my receipt. And like any receipts, they give you like a certain amount of time. They give you like, 30 days or 60 days, and they'll put if it's defective that they won't take it. But yes, you can return it. You can definitely return it. For sure. You can return as long as you have your receipt. Yeah. Well, they don't ask for your account. They just ask for the receipts. Like let's say like I went to let's say I went to Macy's, the mall, and I bought clothing. I bought a shirt. And let's say, I changed my mind. I don't want it. It doesn't fit. There was something defective. All I have to do is just really bring back the receipt within a certain time, and bring the merchandise, providing that it's not damaged. And they just issue you your return. They could send it back to your card, and or they could give you the cash, depending how you do it. But most likely, most times, again, very very technological, very digital, they send it back to your card. Right, that's how they do the receipts here. So let me quickly jump into number 4. Okay, so the other myth that they talk about when they say you only need one credit card, that's also false. Now, some people only like to have one credit card because it's easier for them to manage, and it's in other words, it's a way for them not to overspend if they only have one, right? But if your credit is good and you know how to manage your money, there's nothing wrong with having more than one credit card. I mean, having good credit is a reward, right? It's an excellent reward. Having good credit, again, allows you, security. Let's say, God forbid, you run short, you run in a jam. You have your credit cards, and you can basically borrow from your credit cards. I always talk about, especially, on my channel, that we live in a time and an age where we don't need to be running to people to let people know exactly when we're down or we're financially strapped. Listen, when you got that credit card, all you gotta do is just you just gotta borrow from your credit card. Okay? When you're opening a credit card, a lot of time these lenders, they'll ask you in the application, do you plan on using the credit card to do cash advances? They love when you do cash advances because basically what they do is this. Again, when you do advance, they charge you like a certain interest rate. They charge you for borrowing their money. But for me personally, if I'm broke or if I'm run down, I'd rather go to my credit card. If I need $100, and if I got a credit card that has like maybe like 1,000 on it, or I always use 1,000, it's easier for me to go withdraw $100 off my $1,000 credit card and call somebody up and ask to borrow. People are mean. People are mean. People are cruel. People are cold. People laugh at you. So I always try to motivate people on my channel. I always encourage people to try to have their own. I tell people all the time on this channel, I say, please have and develop a relationship with your bank. Whether it's your bank where you make your deposits or the bank that has your credit cards, have a relationship with them. So when you're down, you can go to them and borrow. Stop calling people. Stop telling people when you're down. Stop trying to borrow money from people. You're wasting your time. And one of the biggest ways or the best ways that people borrow money is when they use their credit cards. So that's why I always encourage and urge people to have and try to have good credit. Because once you have good credit and you have your credit cards, listen, nobody could turn you back. Nobody could treat you bad. Nobody can deny you. And the funny thing is, if you try to borrow from your credit cards, okay, if you don't qualify, they don't allow you to do it. Only the bank knows. Okay? Right. Bander says millionaires have 10 to 50 business credit cards. Exactly. That is such an excellent point. You know, I don't want to make a statement and say that it's people that don't have money, but people that don't have money are so afraid to take risks. Okay? Sorry, I'm a little thirsty. They are so afraid of taking risks. That's why rich people have money. Because they borrow. They borrow and use one debt or one money to supply another or pay for another. It's called flipping money. That's what people that have money do. They'll take money from here, and when they take money from here, they use it to cover money something else over there. You know, let's talk about, money in borrowing money in the game of real estate. On two of my previous lives, I think 2 lives before, we talked about when you're buying a house, right? Right, yes, investment. We talked about buying a house. And I had a gentleman on the live yesterday that said that he had 50 properties, 50 investment properties, literally. It was very good. I mean, this was a great live. And the gentleman said, listen, how I did it, he said, the first loan that I got was something called for an FHA loan. First time home buyers loan. We only put 3.5%. Now it's 3.5%. A couple years ago, it used to be 3%, but times change. We're in a different time now. It's 3.5%. And he literally kept that house for a while. Right. Real estate. Okay, Bola says, what is real estate news? Real estate is basically housing. Right. Yeah, real estate, it's everywhere. Where you are in Nigeria, they call it land, or they buy plots, right? Like you might see a land, and if you buy land, it might say plot, I don't know, plot 2,500 in Lagos or something. I don't know. Right. You have, yeah. So real estate or housing, right. It doesn't matter where you live. I don't care if you live in the US, you live in, in India, you live in Nigeria, you live in Pakistan, you live in Russia. Everybody needs places to live. Okay? Everybody needs places to live. So what I'm basically saying is this, people that have money, they flip money. So what I was saying was that the gentleman, he said, listen, once I bought that first home and I was making, and I was paying whatever. Yep, exactly. They're smarter. And I was paying for that home. I basically took money. It's called equity. I took money out of that property and I used that equity to buy another property. Okay, because when you're buying a second home, you put down more money. So for example, the first home, if you buy the first home with the FHA, now as we are in 2025, they're looking for 3.5%. Exactly, Bander. But let's say a year from now you want to buy another property, an investment property. I think investment properties, they want you to put on, what is it, like 20%? They want you to put like 20% of what the cost of the home is. In other words, remember, with an investment property, like you're going to make more money, right? It's for money. So again, the banks have to make their money. So, they're going to put requirements for you to go by. Right. But I would tell anybody, again, if you want to start, you start with that FHA loan, work on it. If you decide that you want to grow, you want to get a second home, then you go for a different mortgage. They have mortgages for investors, and they also have mortgages, conventional mortgages. That was what last night's live was about, or was it 2 lives? I don't remember, but it was, it was talking about like different types of mortgages that you can get. But Bolo, to what you said, like, I mean, sky's the limit. You can make so much money. I know in Nigeria, there's a billionaire. I think his name is Dangote, and so forth. And right, yeah, oh yeah, that's how rich people live. They live off of loans. Rich people don't go out there and work and live, paycheck to paycheck the way regular hard work, day-to-day working people do. It's called OPM, other people's money. They live off other people's money or other loans. And what I was saying about the that billionaire, that what is it, Dangote? Like, okay, right, yeah, he's rich. He's a major. He's a billionaire from what I hear, and so forth. How did he make his money? Right, Dangote. Yeah, right, but he's a billionaire. I'm sure he's making deals all over the place, all over the world. Because the thing with rich people, he does a lot of investing money, right? That's the difference with rich people. Oh, sugar is good, and what about oil? Oil is good too, right? Rich people spend money. Cement, of course. Rich people spend money. They don't just keep their money. They take risk. That's the difference with rich people. Oh, oil, of course. Nigeria is famous for its oil. Right, right. Indomine, I don't know what that one is. Rent, buy more apartments. Okay. Yes. Bolu Bander said that that it's good for somebody to rent for a year and then later buy more apartments. Right, you could do it either way. If you started, oh, like Indomie noodles. Okay, okay, I've heard of Indomie noodles. Yes, I have a friend that yes, Bolu, I've heard of Indomie noodles. I have a friend that loves it. Her children loves it. I know it. I know exactly what it is. Right. Okay. So he invested in Indomie noodles. Okay, that's good to know. Right. Right. But you understand what I'm saying? Bander was saying a good point. He said, you could rent for a year and then buy more apartments. You're right. You could do whatever you want. I mean, like I said, if you start with that FHA, there's a certain time that you have to live in that house, right, Bander? You have to live in, if you buy your first house with FHA and so forth. And then later you decide what you want to do. You decide if you want to continue living there or, if you want to invest and get another property. But the thing about it is people have to be wise. You have to be wise. You have to know how to spend your money. You have to know exactly like where you want to put it. Where like Bolo said, you have to know where you want to invest your money. Okay? When you have money, a lot of people take risk with their money, and that's how they make other money. And I call it flipping money. It's like right now, if I have like $1 million, I'm not just gonna let it sit there. Like I'm gonna find something to put my million in, so I could end up with 2 or 10 million. That's how it works. All right, let's jump into the last one that I want to talk about. This is number 5. Right, I have my list here. That's what I'm looking at. The other myth that they say that debit cards help to build credit the way credit cards do. Now, let's make sure whoever's people in this life, like they understand how credit and debit cards work. So when you debit, is directly drawn from your bank account, right? So when it's directly withdrawn from your bank account, that's not reporting to the credit bureaus. It's not reporting to the bureaus. Right. But when you do credit, okay, credit is reported to those 3 credit bureaus. It's reported to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. So when you spread it, when you spend your credit card, you use that. That is sent over to the bureaus. That information, I call it the credit report card when they report to the bureaus. But when you debit, whatever you have, let's say like you're a member of Bank of America, you have a Bank of America debit card, right? And if you have a Bank of America debit card, that debit card, once you use it, it's just literally drawing from your hard-earned cash. Okay, if you have your check that comes into your checking account, your direct deposit checking account, and you spend the money, that is what is being withdrawn. Okay, it doesn't build your credit. Right. Bander said, yeah, still talking about the beauty of the FHA loans. So credit and debit are 2 separate things. As much as I talk about building credit, but I like debit because, again, I'm old fashioned the way that I grew up. My thing is if you don't have it, don't spend it. Don't create or make unnecessary debt that you can't do it, that you can't pay for. So with a debit card, when I use my debit card, I know that it's directly from my bank account, and I know for sure that I'm using my own money, that I'm not making purchases that I can't afford. Okay? And simple, if I don't have it, I just don't buy it. But with a credit card, some people know they don't have any money. Right. Yeah, yes. Bolu said, I guess credit score makes you get more chances to get loans. Yes, that's exactly it. When you have a credit profile, you have a credit score, right? When you have a credit profile and a credit score, that is what allow you to get more loans, right? Bolu, I'm glad you mentioned it. I just want to piggyback on something because yesterday's live, I have it written here. Yesterday's live was called, Credit 101, the basics of credit. And on Credit 101, what I did was I basically broke down the 5 things that make up your credit profile, that basically makes up your credit report. And this is just an FYI, I'm just reviewing this. So these are the things that makes up your credit score with the credit bureaus here in the US. All right, the first thing is your payment history. And again, that's what I was talking about most in this live, how you pay back. That is actually 35%. First of all, it's a full 100%. But there's a breakdown of all of it. The first one is the credit history. Shows how you've been paying. Shows if you've been paying your bills on time. Shows if you're paying your bills late. It shows, if you pay good sometimes or you pay mediocre at other times. It shows if you never pay at all. It's basically a history. It's a reporting of what you're doing with your money, right? Over time or each month. Okay, so that's the biggest part of your credit profile is your payment history. The second one that was on it for making it right. This is amazing, right? What I'm saying is, like, they watch you. A lot of people get credit cards, and when they get credit cards, they just sit there with those cards and they just spend it, and they're like, oh, I'll pay it back, whatever. They don't think about it. Yeah. What are you asking? If you pay before your due date? Well, that's wise. If you have it. I had a gentleman on the live yesterday when I was talking about what makes up the big 5 for for credit reporting. The gentleman said he pays his credit cards every week when he makes his money. I mean, he's fortunate, that's good for him. But what I'm saying is, like, if I have my credit card, let's say I always use $1,000, I have my $1,000 credit card, and I spend like $100. When the statement comes, I just send the whole 100. Yep. And what do I buy my credit cards? Like, I might buy gas, for my car. Or, I might buy, some coffee or whatever. I'm just saying, like, simple little things. Maybe I'll do groceries, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I just pay it. Right. But it's a very good idea to pay before the due date. And it's a good idea to pay everything off by the due date. And even yesterday, again, the gentleman made a good point. He said he had somebody that was paying everything off. Right. He was paying everything off. Within those couple of months that he was paying everything off, his credit score went up, literally into the 700s. Because remember, it's every 30 days that they're reporting to the bureau. So if you show that you're paying your bills consistently, it goes up. And I also want to add to that, Bolu, what you missed yesterday. Let's say, for example, you've been paying your card and your score is going up, it's elevating. Let me tell you how tricky this system works. If you've been paying it, and God forbid, 1 month, you missed a payment and your payment's late and they report that, the credit card company reported to the bureau, your score goes down. And I don't mean your score goes down like 10 points. I've heard of people, I've seen people where they had scores go down like 100 points for being late on a payment or missing a payment. So I think it's a good idea, if you have it, to pay before it's due. Right. You're only protecting, your credit. You're only protecting, your score. Because sometimes when you hold on to money that you could have paid your bill, you end up paying for stuff that you didn't even need anyway, or unnecessary things. It's like you pay now to earn later, right? Or you pay now to have better satisfaction in the end. It's like you make a sacrifice now. Again, it's another thing I always talk about on my channel, making sacrifices. What's a sacrifice? Paying your credit card bill off earlier and quicker. So that way you can get better increases, or bigger increases for that matter. Yeah, it's good. And the second one that we talked about was the utilization. Right. We talked about that they only want you to utilize they only want you to spend 30% of the card. Okay, they want you to stay under 30%. So again, the big 1,000, that's my favorite number. If I have $1,000, I'm not spending more than $300 on that credit card. And even if I spend more, I'm going to make sure that I'm able to pay it off in the end. Right? But try to keep your utilization low. I've had people say to me, and I've even read it, where people say, okay, they recommend 30%. Some people say don't even spend more than 10%. I don't know about that. This is where finance gets personal. People know what's in their pockets, and they have to decide what and how much they want to spend. That's the thing. Whether or not somebody's gonna spend 30% or 10%, it's up to them. But I wouldn't go over the 30. That's a recommendation. They also talked about how long you've had credit history, right? The length of the credit history, and that makes up 15%. That's also big, but the biggest one was definitely the utilization at 30. The length is 15%. And what does that mean? Lenders like longevity. Lenders like consistency. Lenders like history. They want to know that you've had credit for a couple years well, and you've been paying your bills for a couple years well. They don't want to know that you've had a credit card for, 6 weeks or even 6 months. And in the 6 months that you've had the credit card, it closed, you ran it up or it charged off. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you so much, Bolo. You said I've learned a lot from your live stream. Yeah. What I'm doing is I'm doing a series on credit because again, I was making content for my channel. You know how this YouTube game goes. Trying to see what really matters and what the masses want to hear. And I find that a lot of people, I'm even on Instagram and I'm having people reaching out to me asking me about credit because, I know about credit. It's what runs, or it's what drives everything here. Everything is credit, right? You can't buy anything without credit. And Bolu, we always talk, we always chat. You could always, contact me. We could talk. I could teach you and show you a few things. I'd love to do it. I've learned a lot from your channel also, and so forth. You're very creative, very artistic. You're the one that, basically taught me how to make, nice, effective thumbnails. So I thank you for that. Like, you have been absolutely spectacular. But yes, and who knows? I'm even thinking about, like, maybe I'm going to have, like a credit workshop where people could literally sign up to join the credit workshop. I'm not, I don't charge a lot, probably charge a small fee that we could sit and literally talk about how to clean up our credit, how to qualify for mortgages and so forth. There's very easy workshops because a lot of people don't know about credit. They don't know about, utilization. They don't know about history. They don't know about that whole mix of credit. They don't know what to do. And even, this is basically a second part. Even yesterday, the gentleman was saying on the live that a lot of people don't learn about money. Money, credit, investing, real estate. They do not teach us those things in schools. Well, if you're going for a higher level degree and you're going for like a master's, when you're an adult, of course you could take those courses. But I'm talking about going to a regular elementary. Yes, Banda, you're welcome. I enjoy this. I love this. This is even the reason why I even started my channel because money has, I'm not going to say it's been an enemy of mine, but before, money was something that, money used to control me, but now I control my money. I don't let money, control me anymore. I like to have my money. I like to enjoy my money, but at the same time, it's like I'm not going to be a prisoner of my own money where I can't spend or I do what I want to do. It's too difficult. Right. We have to have open mind. Yes, Bolu, they didn't teach us a lot of things. They taught us everything else, but the things that we really, some of the things that we really need in life, like, budgeting our money, balancing our money, what I learned about money growing up is I always heard my parents say, you don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. Right. That's what ends up happening to a lot of people in the end. They rob Peter to pay Paul because they never learned about money. A lot of people never learned that, okay, when I get paid, that I should pay myself first before I pay all my bills or my housing expenses. People never learned that, I should pay myself. Hey, if it's even to give myself $100 when I get paid, and just put that aside because, stuff happens, God forbid, maybe you can't work. People lose jobs, companies close. A lot of us didn't learn stuff like that. But, even with me on this channel, like I take my time because like this is something that I'm so passionate about. And a lot of people are basically like, struggling or, they're upset or they're feeling not upset, but they're frustrated because they don't know a lot of things about money or how to spend money. And, even from this live today, I think I'm going to definitely, now that I think about it, I might just, possibly try to, run some workshop on building up credit. I think it'll be a good workshop. A lot of people, would want to learn and so forth, and maybe do the link. It'll be good. Whether it's credit, whether it's real estate, it's housing. Like I'm basically, teaching you or teaching people about cleaning up stuff like that. So it's good. It's a really wonderful thing. Bolo, I want to ask you: are you interested in learning about how credit works? Exactly where you are, where you're located in Nigeria. Are you interested in learning about that? Because if you're interested, I'm sure, again, I don't know how it works there, but, I'm sure you could always Google or find out, from the financial people, like, how credit really works and runs there. It's got to be there. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Bander, any more questions on money, books, credit, anything that you want to discuss? Right. Any more ideas? Tomorrow I'm gonna also be, conducting the live. I'm gonna do another series on credit. I'm gonna continue the series on credit. I'm gonna talk about exactly how credit works, exactly how much money you have to put down for certain things, how to qualify for credit, how to get good credit basically, how to elevate your score, the tricks and the secrets of, getting your score high, because at the end of the day all we want to do is just get our scores up higher, right? And if we can get our scores up higher, I mean, you can buy anything you want. The only time that you can't really buy what you want is when your score is lower. Yes, you're welcome, Mander, no problem. All the time you can't buy is when your score is lower, and we don't want to keep low scores. Right, we don't want to be in the red. We want to be as high as possible. You know what, it's even funny because a lot of people that have good credit, like a lot of these people, like they're even buying real estate, they're able to buy things in different countries. What about all these millionaires that have like houses, like, in the islands and different countries? And I'm not talking about like celebrities. I'm talking about like, just regular people that have their money. Because one thing with money is that the goal is that we want to level up and we want to make our money. But when we have our money, we want to also be able to spend our money. We want to spend our money in places that will definitely like let us see what we achieved. Okay? Right. Bander says that we have to have an open mind. Of course. Of course. I've always had an open mind. Once you know, everything in life is wisdom. And I think wisdom comes with like age and it comes with maturity. The way that I think now, I didn't think that way. I won't even say even maybe 10 years ago, I didn't think that way. But, as you get older and, you become more mature and things start to fall into place better. You realize, let's say, for example, with money, right, what you spent many years ago, you don't spend it the same way again. You can't when you're an adult, unless you still want to, be a small child mentally, but you still have to, be careful how you spend your money. So yes, it makes sense. Bander says they use permanence only. I'm not really sure of what that is. I'm not really sure what permanence, or are you talking about permits to buy in other places? I'm not. Okay, okay. They buy unit apartments. Of course, when they invest in real estate, they buy houses or apartments and they make business out of it. No, you're good. Nothing to be sorry, but I just wasn't really clear or understanding what you meant. But okay, apartments. Yes, they buy apartments. They buy houses. Another form of how they buy condominiums. I mean, they buy a lot of things. I would think like even in those countries or in those islands, like a lot of people that you say, right. Yeah. Bolu said, thank you. Thank you for your time. And I will do shout out for you so you can get more visibility. Yes. All right. Have a good evening. I know you are. I think you're 6 hours ahead of us here in the US. So I think it's probably like after 1 or 2. So, have a good night. Take care. I'll see you on your next video, Bolu. And I'll be sure to, leave a comment. Thank you so much. I'll be sure to definitely, leave something there. But once I'm live again, yes, you were wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'll see you on your live. I'll see you on yours because I love your content also. Very, very informative and very helpful also. So we'll definitely catch up. Go get some rest. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. I do appreciate it. So, so Bander, Bolu, I think Bolu dropped off, and so forth. Just to recap, we talked about the 5 myths of credit. First myth was that that you should be carrying a balance to help your score. Nope. Second myth is that you should close your credit cards once you pay them off. Nope. Myth. Third one is that that when you apply for cards, it ruins your credit score. Myth. No, you just get a little ding. Fourth is that you only need one credit card. That's also a myth. It's always good to have more than one. You need to extend your credit. That's great. And the next one is that the last myth is that debit cards also build up your credit profile, your credit report, just like credit cards. That's not true. Debit cards is you just debit, just like it says, you take it away. Credit cards, you spend, you borrow, you build over time. All right. So with that said, people, I thank you so much for joining me on this live. We'll pick up our series tomorrow on credit. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Okay, we're out. See you in the next live. Right. Okay. Yes, thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.